Welcome to the Binge Eating to Food Freedom podcast for driven hearts and minds. If you pour your best self into everything you do, and yet food takes up so much energy that it pulls you away from what matters most, you're in the right place. I'm Katie Papo, and I'm here to help you create a healthy relationship with food that supports you to live your highest and best life. And for an extra edge, become a food freedom insider. Each week, I'll give you free, practical wisdom you can actually use in your daily life and more. Just head to katiepapo.com/resources or check the show notes. Without further ado, let's dive into the episode. So this is a special episode called Why You Binge and How to Stop. And we'll be talking about the inner mechanisms of compulsive overeating so you can understand exactly how to end compulsive overeating. So if it's your first time joining us, I'm so glad you're here. I believe that in your time here, you will have a paradigm shift and you will be looking at this in a way that you haven't looked at it before. So I'm very grateful that you're taking the time to be here. And before we dive in, I'll just say that 10 years ago, I finally stopped binge eating after struggling for what felt like forever. And since then, I've had the privilege really of helping thousands of people find their own freedom too. So this isn't just professional for me. This is a deeply personal service that I take very seriously. So if there's any part that I can play in you finding your own freedom, it would be a huge honor to support you in that. So I want to start here with a couple promises to you, whether you're a new listener or whether you've been listening for a long time. So first of all, by the end of our time in this episode together, you will understand why it is that you know exactly what you should do, but you still can't seem to do it, or even if you can do it, you just can't seem to stick to it or maintain it, even though in other areas of your life, you're very disciplined and you're very successful, and why food is so different. And the second promise is I'm going to share 3 things that will give you freedom from binge eating, starting immediately, as soon as you implement them. And what makes this approach that I'll lay out for you different is we're not going to be relying on willpower or self-control or discipline or these things that you've been using in the past. You're not going to be doing a diet. You're not going to be counting calories or macros. We're going to do a paradigm shift here. And I can promise you that this will feel like relief. And I know that for most of my listeners, it's hard to even remember the last time that you felt peaceful around food. I know for some of my clients, they say, I can't even remember the last time. Maybe it was when I was really little. So for many of us, it has been years. I personally was saying, I've done so many harder things in my life. Why can't I just say no to a cookie? Yes, I was very driven and committed in my life, and when I decided to do something, I would go all in, but I would make these resolutions every day to not give in, and yet there I was every night, box of cookies, bag of chips, whole pizza, just gone within a night. And I remember how much pain I'd feel, not just physically, but the guilt and the shame of doing that, thinking, why did I do that to myself? I just promised myself this morning this wasn't going to happen again. And I would make a promise for the next day. And I can't even count how many Sunday nights I said, okay, this is absolutely my very last binge. And then I would do it again on Monday night. And I would look around, and I would see these, what a lot of us call normal eaters. You know exactly who I'm talking about. People who you go out to dinner with them and they get a dessert and then they leave like half the dessert on their plate and they seem so satisfied and like, wow, that was so good. And then they just let the dessert get taken away. Meanwhile, I'm watching them with the dessert thinking, are you going to eat that? Would it be weird if I asked to finish your dessert? I didn't understand these people who could be like that or who could have chocolate in their house and it would expire. And they wouldn't even be thinking about it because if I had something in my cabinet, it would be calling to me until I ate it. So what's changed now for me, and this is what I want to help you do, is I am now one of those people who can let the chocolate expire. I am one of those people who forgets that the chips are in the house. I am one of those people who can have a few bites of dessert and be like, okay, that was good enough. I'm done. Now, I never thought that this would be possible for me. I'll also tell you, none of my clients, many of whom struggled for multiple decades more than I even struggled, they didn't think it was possible either. Yet it's been possible for all of us, and not just possible, but to the point where this is a non-issue. Food is actually a non-issue now. And the beauty of food being a non-issue, which is also one of the problems why it was such a big issue, it wasn't just that food was like torture and I was worried about my health, which absolutely, I was terrified for my health. I didn't know at what point this was going to catch up to me. I knew at some point I would get a health issue because there was no way I could eat the way I was eating and not get a health issue. So that really weighed on me. But the other part that really weighed on me every day was the mental energy that this was consuming, because I was constantly thinking about food, whether it was trying to avoid a binge, plan a next diet, setting up spreadsheets with all my food rules that I needed to follow. And all of the mental energy that was consuming, I wasn't spending on other things that truly mattered to me. I wasn't spending it on next level of my career. I wasn't spending it on getting closer with my friends or my family, on becoming a closer friend to myself in this life. I felt like there was this invisible ceiling on my personal development until I could fix this issue. I knew that this was actually holding me back, not just in my health, but in other areas of my life. So it became very important for me to resolve this issue. And even though I was told many times that this is not the kind of thing you can heal, it's more of something that you just have for your whole life, but you have to learn to manage it, I really refused to believe that, because I couldn't accept the fact that this was my life, that this was going to be the thing that just consumed my mind for my entire life. So I tried the conventional things that a lot of people do. I did try Overeaters Anonymous, but I only tried a few meetings before I gave that up, because I did a whole episode on that, by the way, if you want to know about that. I did continue trying to use willpower and food rules. That I did keep trying to do until I realized, and that's what I'll talk about in this episode, is why to stop doing that. I tried therapy, I tried hypnosis, I tried all kinds of alternative healing modalities. I did all these supplements that promised that I wouldn't have cravings anymore, especially sugar cravings. I tried it, everything I could think of. And circling back to the willpower and the control, I started looking at it and I thought, does this really make sense? And I asked the same question for my clients who say that they have no willpower and they have no self-control with food. I look at them and I see what they've accomplished in their life, whether it was getting multiple degrees in schooling, graduating with honors, whether it's achieving certain levels of success or promotions in a career, whether it's running a successful household and taking care of multiple people, and even diets that they've stuck with in the past. They'll say, I did this really strict diet for 6 months or for a year. That's not an easy feat to do these things. And here they are saying, and here I was saying, I have no willpower, I have no discipline. And it didn't make sense to me. Like, the math wasn't mathing, as the kids say these days. How could it be that like a cookie is the thing that defeats me when I've done all these harder things? So I started asking, what if my strategy is just off? And this was the question that really created my first paradigm shift. And I wanted to do the same for you. So I started thinking about those normal eaters, right? The friend who can have half a slice of pizza and just throw the rest out, and it seems like they don't even give it a second thought. The person who can have cookies in the cabinet and it just sits there and maybe expires, or they just can have one cookie and they're fine with that. Now, if we really think about those people, are they using willpower? Are they using self-control and this incredible amount of discipline? No, it doesn't really seem like they're even using willpower at all, does it? What it seems like is that it's pretty effortless for them. to say no to the rest of the pizza or to not think about the cookie. And here I was saying, I need more willpower. I need more self-control. I don't have enough discipline. But meanwhile, the kind of person who I wanted to be like, these normal eaters, for them, eating only half the pizza was effortless, so they didn't even need willpower in the first place. And that was the kind of person who I actually wanted to be. I didn't want to be the kind of person who needed incredible discipline every day to overcome cravings. I didn't even want to be dealing with those cravings in the first place. I wanted to be a normal eater who seemed to just, all of this was just effortless with food. So I realized that maybe I was barking up the wrong tree with willpower. And now the real question was becoming, how do I become one of those normal eaters? How do I become one of them? How do I make this effortless for myself? How do I have a naturally peaceful and healthy relationship with food where I just enjoy and crave healthy things? And with unhealthy things, maybe I'll have it from time to time, but it's not something that would trigger a binge. And I can just enjoy it and move on. Like, that would really be the most ideal situation for me. Because was it realistic to think I'm really going to go the rest of my life never eating a cookie again? Probably not. So if I did go the rest of my life worrying about cookies, then I would constantly be on edge. I'd worry that it would spiral into a binge. I'd constantly try to go on no sugar diets. It all just sounded very exhausting. So really what I started looking at was, what's the path out, not in terms of how do I fight my cravings, but how do I become one of those normal eaters who's not really even seeming to struggle very much with cravings in the first place. Or even if they do have a hankering for something, they'll just have it and then they're satisfied. That's who I want it to be. So that's what this episode is going to be about. Not how to manage your eating disorder or how to exert this incredible discipline and motivation to overcome these crazy cravings, but how to actually shift your inner world, the inner mechanisms at play, so you are no longer compulsive with food. So you actually do have that peaceful, effortless relationship with food, just like your friend whose chocolate is currently expiring in her cabinet. So now the next part of this episode is, how do we do this? So first, let me give you a scenario. Let's imagine that you and I, we decide, you know what, we're making a pact. Tomorrow we're going to start a diet. We're going to pick a really simple diet tomorrow. Just 2 food rules. The first food rule is no chocolate. The second food rule is no chips. And this is all we have to do. And we're going to do it together for 30 days, you and me. So no chocolate, no chips, 30 days. And we're going to start tomorrow at 7 a.m. Now let's look at our watches now. Okay, right now it is 2 p.m. So we have the whole day today before we start our diet tomorrow morning. So what do you think we're going to do now? I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy all my favorite chocolate. I'm going to buy all my favorite chips so I can get it all out of my system, because starting tomorrow, I'm going to feel deprived. So I want to have it all now. Are you going to do the same thing? So let's just pause here and think about why this happens, because this is the first key to understand in ending the compulsiveness that you feel around food. So I call this restriction brain. And honestly, we all have it. Now, when we decided to go on this diet, no chocolate, no chips. Now, before that, were we even thinking about chocolate? Were we even thinking about chips? No. So why is it that now at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, I am suddenly rushing out to the store to buy them? Is it because I'm weak? Is it because I have an eating disorder? No, it's because of a universal psychological reaction to scarcity. Scarcity, knowing I'm not going to be able to have this chocolate tomorrow. I'm not going to be able to have these chips tomorrow. When we as humans know that something won't be available soon, we instinctively want to get it while we can. Even think about this in the animal kingdom, like bears. Bears eat a lot before winter, knowing that food is going to be scarce in the winter. So they eat a lot and then they hibernate. So we go through a similar process. When we know that we can't have something soon, we're going to want to eat it more and more and more. So that restriction that we're putting on ourselves, whether we're anticipating a diet, whether we just got off of a diet and we felt deprived for 30 days, any kind of food restriction creates this energy of scarcity in us around food. And every time we go on a diet or we set a food rule, we're basically training our body and our brain to feel this energy of scarcity around food. Now, that scarcity is what drives the urge to binge, because it adds urgency to the situation. Oh, well, I can't have it starting tomorrow, so I need to have it all now, right? That's not a relaxed energy. That's a very urgent emergency energy. Have to get it now. And it's been studied and concluded that the number one cause of binges is restriction. Restriction. Even think about normal eaters, right? You can see this even with normal eaters. Let's say in the United States, we have Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving comes one day a year and it's a whole huge feast. And even normal eaters, you'll see it. They'll start overeating on Thanksgiving dinner. Why? Because this is the one time of year that they get that pumpkin pie. This is the one time of year that they get that stuffing. So they know that I'm not going to get this again till next year. Better get it all in now. So you can see this is not even unique to us. It's not that there's something inherently wrong with us. This is how restriction works for all humans and the animal kingdom. The difference for us is that we've been ingrained in food scarcity. What do I mean by that? You have probably gone on every diet in the world. You have probably tried to stick with food rules over and over and over again. Now, if somebody's just experiencing scarcity on Thanksgiving and that's it, that's not an ingrained, unconscious pattern. But if we've been training our brain and body in scarcity going on diets for 20 years, now that's something that's going to create true scarcity in our nervous system. Now it's not just our thoughts. It's not just that we had this experience once. It's like we're ingraining this in our nervous system. Now everything associated with food, there's scarcity wrapped around it. Everything is saturated in scarcity. And this scarcity, we don't even realize it's happening. This scarcity is constantly driving up the urge to binge. I used to have it even if I was sitting with friends and let's say some junk food was put out. Other people would be eating it. It's not that it was socially unacceptable to eat it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable eating it. I was judging myself if I ate it. However, let's say people left the room and I was the one left alone with the junk food. I would shovel in as much as I could before they came back into the room. Do you see where even there's scarcity there, right? I have a limited amount of time before they come back into the room. Therefore, I have to shovel as much food as I can in now. You see how that works? So the scarcity can really come in different ways. We can see it even when we get to the end of a meal, right? How many times have you been trying to stick to a plan? You get to the end of the meal and you say, oh no, the meal's almost over. I don't want it to end. And then little by little, okay, let me just have one more bite. Let me just have one more bite. Oh, let me just have one cookie. Let me just have, and it's just like we keep saying to ourselves, just one more, just one more, just one more. And every time we say one more, we're giving ourselves scarcity. So really, we're eating 30 more, but every time we're saying just one. So we're constantly feeling deprived. Oh, I'm just getting one, just one more, even though we're eating a lot. So the amount that you're eating is not correlated to the amount of scarcity that you feel. Just like people with money, right? Think about people with money. Certain people have tons and tons of money, like more money than they could ever spend in a lifetime. But they're not generous because they feel a lot of scarcity around money. They're always afraid that one of their investments will tank, that the other shoe is going to drop, that they're going to run out of money. And they live in scarcity even though they have a lot of it, right? And that's a lot of the time with binge eating. We might be eating a lot of food physically, but we don't feel like there's a lot because we're constantly in this state of scarcity. Whereas other people, right, look at other people with, might have very little money, but they feel very abundant in their lives. They share very easily. They always feel like they have enough. They feel like more will come to them, so they don't worry about running out. They have less money, yes, but they have a greater energy of abundance. And it's the same thing with food. There are some people who might eat less, but they have a greater energy of abundance. So they don't feel like, oh yeah, I have to eat the whole pizza now because who knows the next time I'm going to let myself have pizza. They'll eat half a slice and they'll feel very relaxed about that because they know they can have pizza anytime. So you'll hear a lot of intuitive eating coaches talk about restriction too. And they'll say, oh, well, the first step of intuitive eating is letting go of the restrictions, which there's some partial truth to that. But the problem, if that's the main technique that they're teaching, which is often what I'm seeing, and some of my clients have worked with intuitive eating coaches in the past before they found me, and they would say, yeah, they told me to stop restricting myself, but then I just gained all this weight. And the reason why that would be true, well, there's a couple of reasons why it'd be true, but the major reason why it would be true is because once you lift the restrictions, that doesn't change the fact that you're still wired for scarcity. It doesn't change the fact that your nervous system is still in scarcity mode around food. So once you lift the restrictions, you're just going to want to eat everything and you're never going to be able to stop. And that's what people's fear is. And then the fear comes true. And then they're like, oh, intuitive eating doesn't work for me. But the issue really was that whoever was guiding you through that didn't understand that even though technically you don't have food rules, technically you're not on a diet, but you're still completely wired for scarcity. So of course, as soon as you have the opportunity to eat a whole pizza, you're going to. And then the other reason, which I don't want to go too into in this episode because I do have other episodes that talk about this, about why the weight kind of creeps back on and why you lose the weight and gain the weight back. I call this restriction body, and it goes beyond those psychological cravings that we just talked about. But even when your body senses the food restriction, even when your body senses the scarcity, it doesn't know, your body doesn't know that you're just trying to fit into your summer clothes. The body thinks that you're actually facing a famine. So what it does is it slows down your metabolism to conserve energy. I know you're going to hate this, but the body becomes very efficient at storing fat, just in case this famine continues. And this is the even worse part. So your body slows down the metabolism, it starts storing fat. It also starts amping up all of your hunger signals. And it makes cravings feel wildly intense. And this explains why with every time you've gone on a diet, it gets harder to lose weight, even though you're doing the same diet that you did, a year ago, because your metabolism has now slowed down to accommodate the calorie restriction, to accommodate the fact that you aren't eating certain food groups. And it also becomes easier and faster to gain the weight back because now you've become better at storing fat. So that's why 95 to 99% of people, when they go on a diet, they do lose the weight initially, yes, and they get really excited about that. But what they don't know is that the story's not over, that your body has already slowed down its metabolism, your body has become better at storing fat, and your hunger signals have increased and amped up. So that's why 95 to 99% of people gain weight after a diet long term. And your normal weight and your baseline weight starts increasing with every diet. And I found this myself. I used to work in the weight loss world before I got into this work. And so I was helping people lose weight. I was always focusing on weight loss myself. And the deeper I got into this world, the more weight I gained. Yes, I, of course, had those little spurts of, oh, wow, I lost 10 pounds. But over the years, then I would gain 20. And this is what I see again and again is we get wrapped up in this idea that, oh yeah, this made me lose weight, but we don't realize the aftermath of what's coming next. I like to give this example sometimes of imagine that there's a machine where you press the button and the machine spits out $1. And you're like, oh wow, I love this machine. I could press this button all day. But what you don't realize is, yes, the machine gives you $1 in cash, something that you can see, but then 3 days later, the machine takes $5 away from your account. So really the truth is every time you press this button, you lose $4. But to your eye, you get that immediate gratification of, oh yeah, I gained $1, I gained $1. But then, of course, the more you press that button, the poorer you're going to become. This is how diets work. You get that initial immediate gratification of, oh yeah, I lost 10 pounds. But over time, what happens is your body is set up to gain more and more and more weight. And when I first discovered the science of this, it was like a light bulb went off, because all of that obsession that I had with food, all of that weight that I was gaining, I didn't have some incurable eating disorder yet. It certainly felt that way. But this wasn't my personal failing. This wasn't a lack of discipline. None of what's happening is actually your fault. Your body is working as it's supposed to. It's protecting you from a threat that it's perceiving. The body's only sending these intense cravings as a survival mechanism. The body's only storing fat in response to the dieting you're doing. All these diets over the years have just trained your body to be wired in this way. But this is not your body sabotaging you. This is your body ultimately trying to keep you alive in what it believes is a threatening situation. So this is why people who chronically diet not only gain the weight back, they gain the weight back plus more. It's not because you failed the diet. And I know that's what you think. Oh, I failed. I fell off the wagon. It's not you. The diet failed you. That's what happened. You didn't fail the diet. The diet failed you by triggering all these biological protective responses that literally reprogram your body to gain weight more easily. The longer you stay in this cycle, the more the body will adapt to protect itself. So each diet will train your body to store fat, slow your metabolism, send stronger cravings, make you more and more obsessed with food. So it's not that you have some unmanageable problem that you're stuck with for the rest of your life. It's that the thing that you've been trying to use to help you solve the problem is actually one of the biggest causes of the problem itself. That's why the problem has persisted as long as it has. And now here's the kicker. If you're someone who's a high achiever like me, when you commit to something, you go all in. You are meticulous. You follow every rule to the letter. You live and breathe that food plan. You memorize every calorie count. You know exactly what you should or shouldn't eat. You are the perfect rule follower. And because of that, you are going to be attracted to diets. You're going to be attracted to things with tons of structure and rigid rules. And you're going to try your hardest to stick to it, which means it's going to be even more disheartening when you fail. And now you know that it wasn't you failing, you were just being set up for this. But because you're so dedicated as a human being and you always follow through and you never give up, you're not going to assume that the problem is the diet. You're going to assume that the problem was you. You're going to take the failure and you're going to say, okay, well, next time I need to just try harder. But that's only going to make it worse. It's like you're trying to put out a fire, pouring water on it, but really the water that you're pouring is gasoline. And so you keep saying, why is it that it keeps getting worse? I keep pouring more and more water. Why is the fire getting bigger? Right? Because what you're using is actually gasoline. All of this dieting, all of these food rules, this is the gasoline that's fueling the binges. This is what's happening. So a lot of people at this point have a fear and they say, okay, I get it, Katie, this makes sense. And I certainly don't want to keep, fueling this fire. I don't want to keep fueling binges with more restriction. But if I stop restricting, I feel like I'm just never going to stop eating. I'm just going to gain all this weight. And I hear you. And you know what? You're right. You're right. And a lot of intuitive eating coaches will tell you, oh yeah, you just need to lift the restrictions and then eventually you just won't crave the foods anymore. They're missing a major piece. And if you take that advice at face value, you probably will gain weight. I mean, that's what I've seen anyway. That's what happened to me at first. So there's a specific way to go about this because it's not just about lifting the restrictions. It's reprogramming your inner mechanism. Instead of scarcity around food, you need to feel abundance around food. And this is exactly what I was talking about with the person who might have a lot of money, but they feel scarcity, whereas somebody else might have less money, but they feel this huge sense of abundance and they're very relaxed and peaceful with money. Same thing. All these normal eaters who can just easily say no to a cookie or have one and then just move on, they have a strong sense of abundance around food. There's no urgency, right? They're not using willpower. They're not using self-control. They're not telling themselves no. They're not telling themselves this is the last time, right? They don't have the scarcity. They actually have a strong sense of abundance. So abundance doesn't mean just you eat large quantities of food and you never stop eating. Abundance means there's no urgency anymore. In other words, what abundance means is you're relaxed. You're relaxed. And guess what you can't be if you're relaxed? Guess what you can't be if you're relaxed? You can't be compulsive if you're relaxed. When your nervous system is truly relaxed around food, you cannot feel compulsive at the same time. It's just not possible. They're opposite feelings. This is the first inner working that we need to shift. If we can train your nervous system to no longer feel compulsive around food, but instead to feel relaxed, to feel abundant, this is already your first stage to becoming a normal eater. And this is completely trainable because guess what? You weren't born with food scarcity the way you have it now. That was trained. And I don't care how old you are or how long you've struggled, your brain is adaptable. Everybody's brain is adaptable. So all you have to do is train it. And this is the first thing that I do with my clients. And they start to feel shifts literally in their first day, maximum their first few days. In 2018, since I first started my online program, I've never once had a person, and I've had people who have been struggling for up to 60 years with binge eating. I've never once had a person who took more than a few days to feel their first shift out of this scarcity. And I'll give you a specific example. So I had a client, Renee, and Renee had been in Overeaters Anonymous for, I want to say it was like 40 years or something along those lines. It was a very long time that she was in Overeaters Anonymous. And of course, what they teach is, you need to avoid these foods and these foods are dangerous, which of course, from given what you just learned, that this is going to make you obsess over those foods even more. And in her first week, when we were working together, she was really afraid. I gave her this assignment that I still give to my clients now. I gave her this assignment with Oreos because that was one of her trigger foods. And she was afraid to even touch the Oreos because she was certain she was going to spiral out of control. So I told her, use the tools that you've been practicing all week. Slowing down, calming the nervous system, breathing. She took one Oreo, she ate it very slowly. And she said, this wasn't as great as I thought it would be. And I said, would you like another bite? And she said, I guess. And she took the second bite of the cookie. And then she said, I'm good. I don't want this anymore. And then she was like, who just said that? Did I just say that? Like, this had never happened before. She, in that moment, and yes, this was only her first week, she had more work to do, but in that moment, she was that normal eater who had 2 bites of a cookie and was like, I'm good. It wasn't her willpower, and that's the felt difference. Things are changing when it's not your willpower that made you say no. That's one of the first signs that you said no because you genuinely didn't want it. And you have this power within you literally in this moment now. You might think you're dissociated from your body signals, and it's true, you might be dissociated, but that doesn't mean they're not there. Your body signals are there, especially once you stop feeling compulsive around food. You will be able to hear them and feel them, and you already have them now, just not with food. Think of it this way. If you go outside, do you need to check an app to tell you if you need a jacket or not? Or do you just go outside, feel the temperature, feel if you're hot or cold, and then just intuitively decide to put on a jacket? There's no drama around that. You're just feeling a body signal and then acting accordingly and then not thinking about it. right? And if you get too hot, you take off the jacket, right? It's the same thing with food. When all of this baggage is removed from it, you just feel if you're hungry. If you are, you eat, and that feels good. But then if you start to eat too much, it doesn't feel good, so you stop. It's like the equivalent of just taking off the jacket. There's no drama about it. This is what is possible for you. You already can do it with the temperature of your body, right? You can put on and take it off a jacket with no drama. You have the potential to do this with food when all of this other stuff that you've trained yourself to think and feel in the past is just out of the way. What's left when all that's out of the way is just you and your body signals and your appreciation of food that feels good and tastes good, and appreciation when you know you've had enough and you can just let it go. And that's it. It really doesn't have to be more complicated than that. And I don't want to minimize the struggles, because I was struggling with binge eating every day. So I'm not saying what you're struggling with now isn't a big deal. Of course it's a big deal. It's the most important thing you could focus on right now. What could possibly in this world be more important than your health and the health of your family? If we don't have health, we have nothing. So I'm not minimizing the struggle that you're feeling. What I'm trying to illustrate is how natural this can be for you, and that you have what you need already within you. It's just all of this indoctrination through the years of dieting, through the years of weight loss programs, through the years of therapy or outpatient or whatever made this feel insurmountable. When that's gone, what's left is the natural body signals that you had when you were born. And when you can listen to those body signals and you don't have all that compulsive energy swirling through your mind, suddenly you're that normal eater. And not only that, but you also already have the kind of personality that it takes to succeed in anything. You already are the kind of person who never gives up. You're the kind of person who values your health, who wants to take care of yourself. You're very strong. You're very smart. And every time you've fallen down over the last however many decades, you get back up. The proof is that you're sitting right here listening to this, or you're taking a walk with me listening to this. So you have everything that you need, from the personality to the natural body signals. You have everything you need to succeed in this. It's just about now being able to go at this in a structured, methodical way. I have found that even when it comes to something intuitive like body signals, if you're learning something for the first time, it's a really good idea to go at it in a structured, methodical way. And ideally, and I'm not saying this because I want to tell you to work with me and join my program, I'm saying it because it's true. Ideally, when something is very hard and very new, you want somebody to guide you who has been through this process before and successfully taken other people through this process before. Why? For any reason you'd hire anyone to help you with anything. Like if you have a deadline where you need to be really good at piano by a certain time and you're going to be performing, aren't you going to hire someone? Yes, you could sift through a million YouTube videos, but ideally you want someone who's going to come over to your house, who's going to give you the structure, and then when you start playing piano, they're going to be able to watch you. They're going to be able to adjust your technique. They're going to give you tips that through their years and years of experience. This is the ideal situation. Now, in this talk, I want to give you the system that I use with my clients. Of course, I can't literally take you through a 4-month program right now in this podcast, but I will take you through the process, and you can start to see the vision of how this can unfold for you, because I can tell you the level of success that my clients have seen is unheard of in the eating disorder industry. And I'll tell you the reason for that is because many of the people in the eating disorder industry, and I'm not saying this in any kind of negative way, what I choose to believe is that everybody's very well-intentioned, but a lot of what's out there is just managing the food instead of actually becoming the normal eater. That is not something I see very often, is people actually becoming the normal eater. It's more about how do I manage this for the rest of my life, which, as you know, I could not get on board with that. So let's go through this process. And really, there's 3 major steps in this process, and then there's 2 more other intuitive steps that go along with it. So really a total of 5 steps. So this is called the rewired eating strategy. Rewired meaning we are rewiring your relationship with food. We are rewiring your brain, your nervous system, your body's response to food. So by the end of this 5-step process, you are going to have a completely different relationship with food. So this is not something, I want to be very clear about this. This is not a plan that you have to stick to for your whole life. What this is a process where you become the normal eater. And those normal eaters, think about the people who eat that half a slice of pizza. Are they following a plan? Are they trying desperately to stick to a plan, hoping they don't fall off the wagon? No, because they just are that person. They are that normal eater. This is what this process is for. So the process is not something that you forever have to stick to. The process is something to get you to become the normal eater. So yes, you follow a structure, right? That's why I have a 4-month program, because you need to follow a structure to get to that place. But then you are that person. So this is what I'm talking about. So let me go through the 3 to 5 steps. So the first step of the rewired eating strategy is called the reset. Every part of this starts with reset, rewired, just so it's easy for you to remember. So the first part is called reset. Now, the reset stage, which in my program, it takes a whole month, this stage. The reset is very important because this is the stage where you go from the compulsive energy that you have around food currently to feeling very calm around food. Remember how I talked about the scarcity versus abundance? This is where you go from scarcity to abundance. This is where you go from compulsive to calm. So here's what happens in the reset stage. And pay attention, because this is what actually sets the foundation for every stage to come. Like, you won't be able to even do the next stages if you don't master this stage first. So imagine that you're on a speeding train. And as you're on this train, you look out the window. Train's going real fast. It's going like 200 miles an hour. You look out the window, what do you see? You don't see anything. You just see a blur. You see a blur. You know there's things outside, but when you look out the window, all you can see is a blur. Now, this is essentially what our current state is when we're in that compulsive mode around food, when we're in scarcity. I'm using these words sort of interchangeably. Scarcity, compulsion, survival mode, stress mode. What happens when we're in that mode is we can't see things clearly. Just like if we're on that train, we look outside, we know that there's different objects. We know there's trees, we know there's houses, but all we can see is a blur. So what do we need to do if we want to see things clearly? Well, first we need to slow down the train. And what happens when we slow down the train? Now we can see a little bit more clearly. We can say, okay, that was a house. That was a tree. We're not going to be able to see super detailed, but we're still going to be able to see way better. Now, what happens if we actually stop the train? And then we can step outside and look around. Now we can see things we'd never be able to see on the train. We can see that, oh, there's a little squirrel over there. Oh, there's a bird. Oh, what a cute mailbox. We can see all these little details. And we have a much higher awareness of what's actually in front of us. And this is what happens when we calm the nervous system. Think about it. When you're calm, when you're taking nice, slow breaths, when your muscles are relaxed, and you're in that calm state, and you're not just running around frantically, but you're in that calm state, you have this incredible power to observe what's in front of you, whether it's what your thoughts are, what your body signals are. Everything is slowed down. Another example that might resonate with you, imagine that you're looking at a lake and this huge powerboat just rips through the lake and there's all these waves. Now, if you're trying to look to the bottom of the lake, you're never going to be able to see anything as long as there's all these waves. This is like the compulsion that we feel around food. The waves are the compulsion. It makes it impossible for us to actually see the truth of what our body's saying, what our hunger signals are saying. We can't see or feel any of that. But then once the boat's gone and the water becomes very calm, now the lake is clear. We can see to the bottom. So this is what happens when we become still, when we calm the nervous system. When we become still, we can see from a much higher state of awareness what these cravings are truly telling us, what body signals are truly there, what thoughts we're actually having. But we can witness this not from a state of, I don't want to feel this, I'm going to be consumed by it. It's not from that state. It's from this calm witness state, as if you're just standing outside the train looking around, or you're just outside the lake, right? You know you're not the train. You know you're not the lake. And in that same way, you're not your thoughts. You're not your body. But you can witness all of it. Almost like you're standing outside of yourself, just witnessing it. When you're in a calm state, you can do that. So this reset stage allows you to see clearly. And once the craziness has stopped and you can see clearly, now you can make choices. You're no longer acting out of compulsion. You're acting out of choice. So this is the first stage. This is the reset. Now, what's the second stage? The second stage is called receive. I also, in my program, I go for a whole month in this stage. Now, what are we receiving? So once everything is reset and we can see everything clearly, now we're in a position where we can actually receive body signals. We receive body messages. This is ultimately developing body intelligence. And think about it. What you're really doing here is creating a healthy, trusting relationship with your body. And if you think about a healthy, trusting relationship that you have with another person, what makes that work? What makes it work? Let's say you all have a problem and you need to work through the problem. What do? Well, first, you sit down and you create the space for it, and you both enter the conversation from a calm place, right? That's the reset. Once you're both calm and in a state of receptivity, listening, now when the other person speaks, you can actually hear what they're saying. You can receive what they're saying. So just like that, with the body, we need to build that trust through communication, through being able to actually feel and hear what the body is speaking to you. Just like if a partner is trying to give you feedback, right? If you're in a state of anger and you're all amped up, you're not even going to hear what they're saying. You're just going to lash out, fight back. But when you're both in that calm state and they give you feedback and you actually listen, now you can think, oh yeah, you're right, I did do that. And you can respond, I'm so sorry. And this is the next step, is respond. So we have reset, receive, right? Where we receive the body signals, we receive the cues, and then respond. Respond, let's say we're in a relationship with that person. If they say, I noticed that you haven't been paying attention to me, you receive that, and you say, oh, you're right. I am so sorry. Let's set up a time this week just for the two of us. So basically what you just did is you received what they were saying, and then you responded, first of all, by apologizing, and then second, by giving them what they actually need, giving them what they're actually asking you for. So with your body, it might look like the body saying, hey, I'm hungry. And maybe in the past you would have said, well, too bad, it's not 4 o'clock and we're doing intermittent fasting, so you can't eat till 4, right? Imagine doing that to a partner or a child, right? Starving them until 4. But here you're saying, oh, you're hungry. I hear you, and I want to take care of you. So let me feed you. What would you like? And guess what? Because you've already done the reset phase, you're not going to be getting all these compulsive cravings like, oh, I need chocolate, I need this, I need this. You're going to get the genuine answer of what your body wants. And a lot of my clients are very surprised to see what their body wants is actually very good for them. It's actually very good for their health. That's what the body's truly asking for. It's not the mind that's just saying, give me chocolate, give me chocolate. It's the body that's saying, actually, I really do want some fuel right now, and I would love for this to be really enjoyable and pleasurable and taste good too. So then you get all this pleasure from eating, but it's not the kind of pleasure that spirals you into a binge. So this is the third stage, is the respond. So you have reset, receive, respond. Now, the other two stages that I mentioned pretty much go together. They're called repeat, right? Where you literally repeat this process again and again, and rewire, which is as you repeat this whole process, your brain and your relationship with food, your body starts to rewire. Your body learns to trust you again. You learn to trust your body again. Your body finds its natural happy place because you're finally giving it what it actually needs, and not just the things that your mind has been craving because of all the scarcity and all the restrictions that you put yourself through, but the genuine things that your body truly benefits from. So the more you practice this and the more you rewire your relationship with food in this way, which is very simple, right? But very, very powerful. Think about what you're really doing here. Not only do you become like that friend who can have one cookie and be genuinely satisfied, but you actually create a very beautiful partnership with your body, because now you're treating it like you would a loved one, a partner who you actually want to have a healthy, happy, lifelong relationship with. Now you're treating your body like that. You're treating your mind like that. So now instead of you feeling like you're constantly fighting your mind, constantly fighting cravings and all these food thoughts, and you're always obsessed and all this stuff, that feels like an internal battle, because it is. You're fighting your mind, you're fighting your body's not doing what you want it to. With this process, what happens is you create this inner family of yourself, your mind, your body, and everybody learns to work together and communicate properly. And what happens when you have a great team? Success. When you have a great team, like in any business, if there's a bad team, they're not going to be as successful as a great team who works really, really well together. So the key here to really ending the compulsive overeating that you've experienced in the past isn't that you need to try for the rest of your life and forever be hyper fixated on managing this problem. The key is creating this thriving inner team. And when this team works together, you simply become more and more peaceful. You simply become a better and better friend to yourself. And the more you're a better friend to your body, a better friend to your mind, the more impossible it's going to feel to harm yourself. You won't want to harm your body because you can't bring yourself to harm a friend. And that's the difference that I've really felt over the years, even now as time goes on, that as I become a better and better friend to myself, the less capable I am of hurting myself, to the point where I could not bring myself to binge right now if I tried the way I used to. The way I used to binge, I felt like I couldn't stop myself. Now I feel like I can't even do that to myself. And I'll tell you, I am the last person who ever thought that this would happen. But I'm not unique. You can hear just in the other episodes of my podcast, even a couple episodes ago, you can hear Amy's story. A few more episodes before that, you can hear other people's stories. It's the same deal, that they look back and they say, I can't do to myself what I used to do to myself. I can't bring myself to diet like that. It just sounds painful. I can't bring myself to binge like that. It just sounds painful. Because now they have a peaceful relationship with food. And as a result of that, better health naturally follows, because now you're actually listening to your body. And believe it or not, your body knows better than a diet. Because yeah, you could tell yourself, here's my plate and here is the perfect portion because this is what this nutritionist said. But until you physically put that food in your body, you will not actually know how it feels. And unless you know how to slow down the train, you won't know how it truly feels. Because you'll be so wrapped up in this portion isn't big enough, and I hope I don't need more after this. You're going to be so distracted by all that compulsion that you're not even going to be able to feel the truth. So this is how you can start to eat the perfect amounts for your body, the perfect foods for your body, feeling peaceful about it without ever having to diet again. This is your way out. And it works because it is completely aligned with how you were born, with what nature gave you, your hunger signals, your fullness signals. Nature already gave you this. You've just untrained it through all those years of dieting. But once we untrain that, once we untrain the years of dieting, what remains is your body signals. And when you live according to that, it is simple. It is simple. And that's one thing that my clients always say. I can't believe how simple this actually is. Now, just because something's simple doesn't mean it's easy. I think the hardest part of this actually is thinking in a totally different way than how you've been thinking for the last however many years. That, I think, is the hardest part. But once you are in this mode and you start practicing it and you start seeing the results in your day-to-day life situations, like, for example, my clients get so excited when they have that moment of opening the cabinet, seeing the cookies, and then totally realizing, oh my God, I haven't even thought about these cookies in 4 days. That never would have happened in the past. These are the kinds of things where you'll see, this is working. And I always have people coming to me and saying, I've been struggling for so long. Is this really possible for me? Of course it's possible for you. Are you really? And I know we all think that we're the exception, that we're the ones who are so bad. But can you honestly say that as a baby, you didn't have hunger signals? I'm not saying they weren't overridden. I'm not saying they weren't kind of beaten out of you. But you had them and you felt them. You cried when you're hungry. You refused to eat when you were full. That was what you were born with. And you can come back to that. And I don't care if you are 99 years old right now and struggling with this for 98 years. You can still come back to this. I have seen it. You can listen to one of my past podcast episodes with Grace. She struggled for 61 years with binge eating. And I actually just got an email from her the other day. She said, in the last 6 months, I feel like a completely different person. So I don't want you to rob yourself of what's possible for you just by thinking down on yourself. I know that you've been through a lot and you've been disappointed a lot. And I get that. Even my mom was the same. You can hear my mom talk about her journey on my podcast too. She didn't think that this was possible for her either. Through my childhood, I watched her go through 27 rounds of Weight Watchers. I watched her becoming obese, then losing the weight, then gaining it back. And now I'm seeing my mom. It's been like 6 years since she worked with me. And my mom has just a normal relationship with food. It's just not even a thought for her anymore. She never thought that would happen. This transformation doesn't have to take years of therapy, endless struggle. Like I said, when I take clients through my program, it takes 4 months. But most people start feeling shifts in their first few days. And I'm not saying that you have to work with me. If you find someone who you feel has a better solution for you, go for that. Whatever you feel is going to help you. Invest in yourself. Go at it with your whole heart. The whole point is don't give up, because you have this capacity within you already. Now, if you do want the structure and you do want my personal help, you can go check out my program too. It's called the Food Freedom Intensive. It's 4 months, like I said. You can go to my website, katiepapo.com/programs. You can read all about it. You'll see I'm very meticulous in all the detail that I give about it and what you can expect. You can always reach out with questions. I'll be happy to talk to you. But the main point is, don't give up on yourself before you even start. Whatever you feel is going to help you, invest in yourself because you're worth it. Invest in yourself because the rest of your life will be far better if you don't have this problem. And don't let your fear of being disappointed again stop you from doing something that could potentially change the rest of your life. Don't rob yourself of that. Give yourself permission to believe that this is possible for you. I just interviewed someone for my podcast recently, and this is what he said. He said, when I take a risk, I ask myself 3 things. One of the questions is, what am I afraid of? And he'll actually name that fear. He'll go through the fear and he'll say, okay, what's the worst possible thing that could happen? How would I handle it if that worst case scenario happens? That way I'd be prepared for that. And then he asks, and what's the best case scenario? What's the best thing that could happen if I took this risk? And then he asks, the final question is, what is the cost of inaction? What's the cost of not taking this risk? Those are the three things he asks. And even though I never thought about it that way, that's my thought process too with any major life decision. I'll ask myself, what's the worst thing that could happen and how would I handle it? Then I'll ask, what's the best case scenario and what's the cost of not doing anything? And I've found that line of thinking very helpful in my own life with any major decision that I have. So I do want to leave you with this. You are not the problem. You do not have an unfixable problem. You are not destined to manage this problem for the rest of your life. There is a way out, and it is completely aligned with how you already naturally are beneath all this crap that you've accumulated over the years. Your natural state of being around food is peaceful. You were born with hunger signals and fullness signals and pleasure signals and pain signals so you could eat in the absolute healthiest way for your body. Once you are in tune with that, the healthiest version of your body can finally come forward and your mind will be at peace. So with that, feel free to listen to some more episodes, check out my program, see if it resonates with you. Feel free to reach out to me. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And I will see you next week.